Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome back. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cheryl from Cambridge Con Cheryl, and I am your Cambridge Advanced Exam Specialist. So, any questions that you have for me related at all to all things advanced English or the Cambridge Advanced Exam, make sure to put them in the chat box, and I will do my very best to answer them for you. Those of you who are watching the replay, same. Put your answers, put your questions in the chat box, and I will do my best to answer them for you. So this evening, you guys were voting on what you wanted me to talk about in this live. And the most popular subject that came up was, drumroll, the reading exam, particularly reading part 1 and reading part 7. These were your nightmare tasks. So this evening, we are going to have a quick overview of the reading exam in general, but then I will give you some more specific tips to help you on these two parts that you guys are struggling with. So let's just get started. We don't have much time, so let's get cracking. Okay, so the exam. So here is just a copy of a random Cambridge Advanced exam. So the first part 1, is the one that has the gaps, and you have the 4 options that have to go in the gaps. Okay, this is part 1. So the first thing that's important to know about this part is that it goes in the as part of the reading exam, not use of English. Okay, so this is reading, not use of English. And you're going to get 1 point per answer here. Okay, so 1 second, sorry. So this is the first thing we have to look at. This part of the exam is testing you on vocabulary. Okay, it's testing you on collocations, phrasal verbs, words that are very similar in meaning with slight differences, or words that take certain structures after them. So if there's a certain preposition that goes after the word, or if there's a certain structure like with reporting verbs, it can be testing you on this here. So the people who are good at this part of the exam are generally people who like to read in their own language in general. Why? Because in this part of the exam, because they're testing you on a lot of collocations and vocabulary, this is not something that you can magically improve on in in one 30-minute YouTube video. There's not a magical tip or trick that I can give you to boost your vocabulary for this. This is something you need to be looking at the very beginning of your training at C1 level. And we need to be looking at how we are recording our vocabulary and how we are learning new vocabulary. Okay, if you do this, you're going to get much better at this part of the exam. So what do I mean by this? What can you do? Like, for example, if I zoom in a little bit here. So there's a few of these gaps here that I don't even need to look at the options here. I know what the word is because it's a fixed expression or it's a very strong collocation. Like, for example, this one here, number 3, to popular belief. It's a fixed expression, which is contrary to popular belief. I hope it's there now that I've said this. Yes, it is contrary to popular belief. Okay, so by learning expressions and chunks of language rather than just individual words, it's going to help you a lot with this part of the exam. Okay, another example, if I look at number 1, they had to their trust. I'm looking for verbs that go with trust. So the one that comes to mind that I would use with trust is to earn someone's trust or win someone's trust. That's the first ones that would come to mind with me with trust. And here we go. We've got win someone's trust. Okay. So if I just learned the word trust, then I'm not really expanding my vocabulary very much. However, if I learn the verbs that go with trust, the expressions that go with trust, the different formations of the word, if I learn that rather than just one word, it's going to help me with this part of the exam. And not just this part of the exam. It's really going to help you with use of English as well, your vocabulary, your listening skills, everything. Okay, so this is one thing you want to do when you're learning new vocabulary. I'll show you a little example now of some nice websites that can help you with this, and how I would, when I'm learning Spanish, how I think about learning new vocabulary. Okay, so let's have a look at some useful websites. So first off, my favorite website is this one here. It's called Ausdic, and there's a link to it under this video here, ausdic.com. And this is a collocation dictionary. So what I've done is I put in the word trust, okay? And it's giving me all the adjectives, the adjective collocations that go with trust. Yeah? To have misplaced trust, blind trust, absolute trust, great trust. The verbs, to have trust, build, develop, earn, gain, win. That was the one that was the answer in that use of English, reading part 1. The prepositions that go with trust, phrases that go with trust, using trust as a verb, adverb collocations, to implicitly trust someone, completely trust someone. So it's a really cool website to help you with collocations. So definitely when you learn a new word, go here and look at collocations, okay? If you see something like this expression here, tried and trusted, and you're like, what the hell does that mean? I don't know, okay? The second recommendation that I would give you of a great website to help you learn new expressions is this one here. And it's called Youglish, youglish.com. Again, there's a link under this video. And if you go to youglish.com and you type in the expression tried and trusted, okay, it's going to give you all the videos on YouTube that have examples of this expression. And it gives you the tape script underneath. So you can see examples of it in use. You can see if it's formal, it's informal. You can hear it in different accents. So it's really, really cool for trying out new phrasal verbs, expressions, and vocabulary. Okay, so that is something that I would look at as well. And finally, after you've done all of that with your new vocabulary, what I would do is create yourself little vocabulary charts. So here's one I've made earlier with the verb to trust. Here we are. So to trust someone. So I'm looking at the word formation. Okay, so prefixes, nouns, adjectives, collocations, to win trust, to earn trust, to build up trust, the prepositions, synonyms, other ways to say it, and phrases. Okay, this is what you should generally do with new vocabulary, and that's really going to help you with this part of the exam. Okay, let's move on to the other parts of the exam. I'm just checking your questions as we go. Yekaterina, do you need to write in capitals? Yes, for certain parts of the exam, if you have to write answers, like in use of English part 4, you have to write in capital letters. So that's something that you need to think about. If you don't write in capital letters, then you will get 0 points in the exam. So definitely want to be careful with that. Okay, so next parts of the exam. So reading part 1, we've covered this. Let's take a look at the next parts of reading. Okay. So part 2 is use of English. This is the one where we've got to put the words in a particular one word in the gap. Use of English part 2. Part 3, this is the one where we've got to write a word with word formation. This one you would have to write in capital letters, but it tells you at the top of the sheet that you have to write in capital letters. Okay. And part 4, we also have to write in capital letters. Okay, so the next part that counts as reading exam is part 5. Okay, and this is the one where you get a big text, and then you get multiple choice questions, A, B, C, or D. Important to know for this part that you get 2 points per answer for these ones. Okay, let me just, share it with you here. So you get 2 points per answer for these ones. Okay. The thing that people find difficult about this part of the exam is that we are reading between the lines. Okay. So generally, the questions that you're going to be answering, they're not asking you for specific information all the time. Often they're asking you to look at what the main point is or what the writer is suggesting. If you see questions asking that, like this one here, number 33, what the writer suggests, this means that the answer is not going to be given specifically in the reading part. And you are going to be looking for implied information. Okay, this is what people find tricky in reading part 5. So it's a skill. There are techniques to help you with it, and it's something that you have to work on. But that's the main thing that you're going to be tested on in this part. Okay, is reading between the lines. So we're getting 2 points per answer here. Okay. Reading part 6. So every reading is testing you on a different skill. Reading part 6, you're also getting 2 points per answer. Okay. This time you're given 4 texts. Okay. 4 texts on the same topic. And you have 4 questions. And these questions are 2 points per question. So this part of the exam is testing you on your ability to understand people's opinions, okay? And to be able to understand whether someone is agreeing or disagreeing. So you need to get good at spotting vocabulary for opinions. A big mistake that people make with this is, number one, not being able to differentiate between the writer's opinion and opinions in general. Okay, so they might highlight the wrong information in the text. They might highlight the information that's giving the general public's opinion on the topic rather than the writer's opinion, or here the reviewer's opinion. So this is the first thing you have to be really careful with here, is making sure you can differentiate between those 2 opinions. Second thing that people have problems with here is, and this goes for all parts of the exam, not reading the questions carefully. So if people don't read the questions carefully, they start underlining in the text the wrong information. Okay, so always spend a little bit of time making sure you understand the exact question that's being asked. This part is only 8 points. So in terms of the weight in the exam, this is one of the readings that has the lowest number of points available. So if you find this bit difficult and it's taking you a lot of time in the exam, it might be one to leave until the end and make sure you do the other ones first, because you're going to get more points and more value from them. You should be doing these readings in under 15 minutes. All of them, part 5, part 6, part 7, part 8, you should be doing them in under 15 minutes. So if it's taking you more than that, then it might be an idea to do part 7 or part 8 first. Okay. Any questions at the moment? What is the technique for part 6? I tend to read each paragraph too many times. When I'm doing part 6, what I do is, so I'll go to the first question first. I'll go to all the questions first and make sure that I read them carefully and know what it's asking me. Okay. And then I will find the information for question 37 in all the texts. And then I will go back and do the same for 38 and 39 and 40. So you're reading each text 4 times. Okay. But each time I'm reading, I'm getting faster and faster at reading. Because, for example, if the first time I read, if I find the answer for question 1 is here, and then the next time I read, I find the answer for question 2 is here. The next time I read, I know that the answer for question 3 is most likely going to be somewhere in the middle. Okay, so you can kind of skim the bits you've already read, and that will make it much faster for your reading. And then obviously when you get to the 4th one, you've only got like a little bit to read. So it makes it easier doing it that way. So that can be something that can save you time. Okay. Part 7. Everybody's favorite part of the exam. The one we all love to hate. Okay. Part 7. So part 5, we said, was testing us on reading between the lines. So not necessarily looking all the time for specific information, but looking for information that is implied. Part 6, we're looking for opinions, and be able to see the different opinions of the writers and be able to differentiate between public opinion and the reviewers or the writer's opinion. So this is part 6. Part 7 is testing us on a different theme again. Part 7 is testing us on our ability to understand how a text is constructed, our ability to understand the links between a text. What do I mean by that? So we're looking at not necessarily understanding every single word in the whole text. Here we're looking at understanding more kind of grammatical terms that are helping us link ideas together. So let me give you a few examples of this to make it clearer. Okay, so in this part of the exam, I'm going to be looking predominantly for words like this, that, these, and those, determiners. Okay, I'm going to be looking for articles like a and the. I'm going to be looking for contrast words like however, although, despite, or in addition words. These kind of words are giving us clues to what was in the paragraph before or what's coming in the paragraph afterwards. Okay, so if we just look, for example, at this text here about the Scottish wildcat, okay, I'm automatically seeing, oh, look, here we've got the word however. Okay. However is a contrast word. So I know that whatever is in 41 is going to be contrasting with what is said after it. However, the physical differences are tangible. The physical differences. What physical differences? The physical differences between what? It must be between two things. Okay. So contrast words are going to help me here. Okay. Time words are going to help me. Things like dates. It was during the 19th century, 1991, 1912. Is there a time order with events? Okay. Here, part of the problem stems from the problem. What problem? A problem, if it's the problem, it must have been mentioned before. So I would be looking in number 4 for something connected to a problem. Okay. Number 45, but what of his lifestyle? Whose lifestyle? His. This is a male person. So I'd be looking for someone male in number 45. Okay. So words like this are giving us clues. If I look at the gaps, what's going in the gaps? Okay. They probably used. So they, who is they? They would be mentioned in the paragraph before. Okay. As the animals emerge, which animals? It must be animals that we've talked about before. And it's more than one animal. So that must be mentioned in the paragraph before. Okay. The results. Which results? The results of what? It must be some sort of test or an exam or something that's mentioned before. It is a typical image. What? What? It is a typical image. What is a typical image? It must have been mentioned before. This is what makes many people think. This. What is the this? Okay? So, as you can see, it's not words like super fancy vocabulary or understanding meaning that's helping me with this part of the exam. Okay, it's those little grammatical words that it's often words that are replacing other words, like this. This is replacing a singular noun. What is the this? Okay, so this is what you need to get good at in reading part 7 of the exam. So how can you do that? How can you do that without just doing millions of practice exams? Well, one of the best ways to do this is by reading articles in The Guardian or in National Geographic. Okay, The Guardian and National Geographic are where we get or where the exams are taken from. Not all the exams, but a huge amount of the practice exams are adapted from National Geographic and The Guardian. Okay, so if you start looking at articles in National Geographic and The Guardian, for example, let's go to National Geographic. Okay. So I'll just pick a random article in National Geographic about buried nuclear waste. Okay. So then you want to start reading the article and doing exactly the same thing as you would do in reading part 7. You want to start noticing how paragraphs are linked together. Okay. So you want to start looking at numbers. You want to start looking at timelines. You want to start looking at articles, the. Okay, you want to start looking at this, that, these, those. Okay. If you can start doing that, if you can start noticing the links between these paragraphs when you're reading in general, you're going to get much faster at doing it during the exam. Okay, so this is something that you want to make sure you're doing every time you're reading. Okay, it doesn't matter what you're reading, but make sure you start being a detective, a language detective, and you start noticing how those paragraphs are linked. Okay, it's going to help you a lot when it gets to the exam. Okay, so reading part 7, 2 points again per answer. Okay, so you really want to get good at part 7 because that's 12 points that you can get in total for that part of the exam. The final part of the exam is reading part 8. Okay, and part 8 is only 1 point per answer. Okay, so you have 10 questions, 1 point per answer. Okay, and this is about either one text that's divided into different sections or about 4 to 6 separate texts. It depends on the exam. Okay, so it could be A, B, C, D, or it could be A, B, C, D, E, F, depends on the exam. Here we have until E. Most people find this the easiest reading to do in the exam. However, the problem occurs because we run out of time. So we're trying to do all the readings in 15 minutes. We've only got 90 minutes in total for reading and use of English. Sometimes people end up with like 4 minutes left to do this part of the exam. Okay. So something you can do if this happens. Now, hopefully you've been practicing under exam conditions with the correct timing and you don't have this problem in the exam. But if all else fails, this is your plan B, okay? This is what to do if you run out of time in the exam. So most people will just go, I don't know, panic, I've run out of time. And they'll just start picking random letters and putting them in here. They'll be like, A, C, D, B, A, B, C, D. Wow, fingers crossed, hope for the best. Okay, that is an option, but you'll probably not get any right, or you maybe get 1 right if you do that. However, mathematically, logically, if you just pick 1 letter and put it for all of them, you're guaranteed to get some of them right. Okay? Because there's 10 questions. So it's usually going to be like around 2 for A, 2 for B, 2 for C, 2 for D. No? So just picking 1 letter and putting it down will guarantee you at least a few points. Even better if you can do half the task. So maybe you're able to do the questions for A and maybe the question for B, and then you run out of time, and then you can pick C for the rest of them, or D for the rest of them, and you will get more points. Okay, so this is your plan B if things go wrong in this part of the exam. Okay, so this was a very, 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 very fast kind of overview of the reading exam. But I hope that gives you a few tips, at least for part 1 and reading part 7. Okay. Part 1 is our vocabulary. We need to build up our collocations and fixed expressions. Do not just learn vocabulary as 1 word. Learn the vocabulary that goes with that word. Okay. If you do that, then you'll get better at this part of the exam. Number 2, reading part 7, we need to get good at being language detectives. Okay, so you need to get good at looking for those linking words, those things that are joining the text together. So reading The Guardian, reading National Geographic is going to help you with this and start noticing those clues. That's going to get you faster at noticing them when you do the actual exam. Okay, so that is it from me for this evening. If you have any other questions, let me know, put them in the comment box, and I will check them for you later. But that is us for this evening, and we will be on the newsletter tomorrow choosing the topic for next week. Okay, take care. Have a good evening.